Tantor Audio, a division of Recorded Books, presents Mom's Got This, an Oriceran urban cozy, by Martha Carr and Michael Landerly, narrated by Traci Odom. Chapter 1. Lucy Heron raced down the street, pursuing a pack of large, shaggy dogs and their Willen riders. Each of the Willen was wearing a jockey's outfit, which made them look almost like a half-size human, except for their rat-like noses pointing out from under the helmets. "Stop!" Lucy shouted. "Come back here, the lot of you!" The lunchtime crowds parted to let the dogs through. Then the spectators pulled out their cameras and snapped pictures, capturing the moment to share with their friends. People laughed and pointed, but didn't pay much attention to the two women chasing the dogs. That was something, at least. "Are we going to have to wipe all these people?" Jackie Kowal asked as she ran along beside Lucy. She reached around to her back pocket and the magic wand concealed there. "I hope not." Lucy was short on breath, but her mind was still racing, trying to work out how this situation would play out. They only got a glimpse of rat men riding dogs. Could be publicity for a film. In the middle of the day. Weirder things happen in L.A. What about the photos? Moving fast. They'll be blurry. Hope you're right. The dogs rounded a corner, and the two witches followed. Things were less busy here, which was great for containing the incident, but meant the dogs could pick up more speed. "Can you cut them off?" Lucy asked. "Direct them that way." She pointed down a side street toward an area of new and largely unoccupied office buildings. If they could herd the Willen and dogs into somewhere without spectators, they could finally deal with them. "I'll try." Jackie sprinted off, heading down one side of the pack of racing dogs. She had longer legs than Lucy and was the member of their running club who had to hold back the most to keep the group together. If any Silver Griffin agent could get ahead and steer this situation, it was Jackie. Lucy kept running. She'd almost caught up with the rearmost Willen. But then what would she do? Grab the bloke off his dog and arrest him for a public display of magical features? That would leave Jackie to deal with the other 5 all by herself. They'd called for backup, but it was a busy day, and there were only so many agents available. Jackie had almost drawn level with the lead rider. He steered his dog to the right, across the street, and away from her. The others followed, triggering a blare of horns and screech of tires as cars swerved, skidded, and braked to keep from hitting the dogs. Lucy planted a hand on one of the cars and slid across the hood like a cop from an action movie. She grinned to herself. She'd always wanted to do that. Landing in the road on the far side, she pushed herself into a sprint to catch up with the rear of the pack again. At the end of the short street was a shiny new office block, 30 floors of gleaming glass and pristine new concrete dotted with corporate logos. The dogs were chasing straight toward its lobby. "Stop them!" Lucy shouted. "How?" Jackie shouted back. "People are watching." Glass doors slid open a moment before the leading dog would have hit them. It bounded through, its Willen rider whooping and waving a hand in the air as he bounced upon its back. Jackie, only a few strides behind, lunged at the rider, tackling him around the waist, lifting him off the dog and slamming him into the polished floor. The other dog streamed in behind her and began running circuits around the lobby, riders laughing and cheering as they went. People around the lobby caught the edges of Lucy's attention, but she didn't have time to deal with them now, or to worry if there were a few witnesses. They were out of sight of most of the world, and it was easier to wipe the memories of a few executives than a whole street full of spectators. This was the best chance she had. She pulled out her wand and pointed it at the closest dog. "Enratio!" A magical net hurtled from her wand, spreading as it went. It enveloped both dog and rider, bringing them to the ground in a tangle of glowing threads. Jackie had restrained the lead rider, though his mount was still charging around the lobby, yapping excitedly at receptionists and security guards. Pinning her captive in place with one hand and a knee to the back, she pulled out her wand and pointed it at the next dog to run past. "Agglutino!" Glue appeared around the dog's paws. It tried to keep running, but the glue stuck firmly to the floor tiles. As the dog jerked to a stop, Its rider flew off its back, slammed headfirst into a large potted plant, and went limp, knocked out cold. 3 down, 3 to go. Lucy aimed at another of the dogs. "Darmio!" Her aim was a little off, and she hit the rider instead of his steed. The Willen slumped, fell from the saddle, and hit the floor with a thud. He lay there snoring, with his paws curled around his nose as he slid into an unnatural sleep. "Dormio!" Lucy snapped again. This time she hit the dog, which slowed, yawned, stumbled, and fell with one ear flopped across his face, as soundly asleep as his master. The last 2 riders, realizing that the gig was up, made for the elevators at the end of the lobby. "Refrigero!" Jackie called, and a bolt of icy magic shot from the tip of her wand. One of the Willens raised her hand. Magic flashed around her claws, and the freeze spell melted to nothing. "They're getting away!" Lucy raised her wand, but one of the Willens had cast a spell at her, and she was too busy countering it to cast anything at them. "We have to stop them before they get to the lifts." The doors to one of the elevators slid open. Both Willens turned the heads of their dogs, guiding them toward this escape route. A woman stepped out of the elevator. She was as short as the Willens, stocky and muscular, dressed in a black suit that bulged slightly under the arm. To anyone familiar with the magical community, she was unmistakably a dwarf. "Stop right there!" The dwarf held up a hand. The leading Willen turned his dog's head again, steering around the new arrival and toward the elevator. As he passed her, the dwarf's fist flashed out, punching him in the side of the head. He fell like a puppet with its strings cut, sliding off the dog and hitting the floor with a thud. The final rider, seeing what the dwarf had done to her companion, turned her dog away and headed for the stairs. The dog's excitement level rose, and it barked loudly while its rider clung on with grim determination. A tall, slender woman with long blonde hair strode down the stairs, heels clacking with each step. She raised her hand, revealing a short metal tube, and pointed it at the dog. There was a flash of light, and both dog and rider yelped in alarm. The Willen rubbed her eyes while the dog skidded to a stop and started walking in circles, whimpering in confusion. "Hush, boy." The woman reached the bottom of the stairs and leaned over to pat the dog on the head. As she did so, her hair fell forward, revealing the pointed tip of an elven ear. "It's all right. Your sight will come back soon." With her other hand she raised the tube, then brought it down on the Willen's head, knocking her out. The rider fell to the ground, further confusing the poor dog. "Full lockdown," the dwarf called. "Yes, ma'am," said a man behind reception. He tapped a button, and the doors slid shut. Then shutters slammed down over them. They cut off the daylight, but artificial lights immediately switched on, bathing the lobby in a warm, comforting glow. Lucy and Jackie looked at each other. "I thought this place was empty," Lucy whispered. "Looks like you thought wrong." The dwarf strode across the lobby toward them. She'd pulled a tube from inside her jacket, just like the one the elf had used to take out the Willen, and she was pointing it at Lucy and Jackie. "What are you jokers playing at?" she asked sharply. "This is private property." "Silver Griffins!" Lucy pulled out the amulet that hung on a silver chain around her neck. "I'm Lucy Heron, field agent number 485. This is Jackie Kowal, agent 782. We're here on Griffin's business, as you can see." She gestured to the fallen Willens and the dogs that were still roaming the lobby, looking for attention or anybody with an interesting snack. "Yeah, right," the dwarf snorted. "Since when do the L.A. Griffins hire Scots?" "Actually, I'm English." "Whatever. Eduardo, call the Griffins. Check those badge numbers." "Yes, Miss Helmsgaard," said the receptionist, who now had a wand in his hand. As she looked around, Lucy realized that everyone in the room was a magical of some sort, whether witches and wizards who had pulled their wands out when the shutters went down, or dwarves, elves, and gnomes dressed to pass as humans. In one corner of the room, a disrupted illusion flickered, briefly revealing the Kilomea beneath a magical shell of humanity. "Haldora, please. These are clearly legitimate agents." The elf walked over, wearing a smile that could have melted ice caps. We have a responsibility to help the authorities." "Fine." The dwarf snapped her fingers. A dozen magicals in black suits appeared from the corners of the room and gathered the fallen Willans, securing them with cable ties. The security guards were all blonde, and with skins so pale it almost glowed. "Welcome to Nuada Industries, agents." The elf shook hands with each of them in turn. "My name is Ellison Tannerin, and I'm the Director of Public Relations. This is Haldora Helmsgaard, Head of Security." Elithan's smile made Lucy feel calm and comforted. Haldora's handshake, on the other hand, made her feel like she might be lifted over the dwarf's head at any moment and flung out the door. "Sorry," Haldora muttered. "First day open. We're all a bit jumpy." In the time it had taken to do introductions, Haldora's people had assembled the captive Willans in a neat line, as well as finding leashes from somewhere and getting the dogs under control. It was a level of organization and professionalism that Lucy envied. "I didn't think anybody was working here," she said. "Might have led this a different way if we'd known." "Mr. Nuada recently purchased the building as part of our expansion effort here on the West Coast," Elithan said. "I'm sure that he would want to meet you personally to show his gratitude and our commitment to supporting the Silver Griffins and the local community. But unfortunately, he's tied up in meetings all morning. Perhaps another day?" "Sure." Lucy pulled her phone out of her pocket. "We should get this lot back to HQ anyway. Is it all right if we bring a transport van around, or would you prefer a portal?" "Please allow us to help. This will be the perfect opportunity to try out our new solar-powered transport vehicles." "Plus, the drivers need to learn these streets," Haldora said. "Well, if you're sure." "Of course," Elithan beamed. "I'll bring the vans around directly." "Thank you." "Don't mention it. We're always happy to help." Chapter 2. Nuada Industries vans provided a smooth and quiet ride through L.A. and Griffith Park, where a magically camouflaged driveway led to a hidden underground parking garage behind the Griffith Observatory. In the cool concrete darkness, Lucy and Jackie led the Willans out of the vans, all of them now conscious and complaining bitterly about their incarceration.
"You can't do this to us," said one of the captives. "We have rights."
"No magical has the right to show humans that we exist," Lucy said. "I don't believe for a minute that you're not smart enough to know that."
"I'm being repressed."
"Boo freaking who?" Jackie rolled her eyes and pushed the Willan toward the team of griffins waiting to take him for transportation to Oriceran and a long stretch in Trevelson prison. "Keep moving, or I'll repress you so hard your grandkids feel it." Haldora Helmsgaard tugged on a collection of leads, and the dogs followed her out of the van.
"You sending these across the gap, too?" she asked.
"I don't think Trevelson has kennels," Lucy said. "Well, except for the shifter cells. We'll check this lot over in case they're somehow magical, then try to find them new homes."
"If you can't find anywhere, let me know. These good boys don't deserve to end up taken around back of the farm just because their past owners were irresponsible rats."
Haldora handed Lucy her business card. "You have dogs of your own?"
"Currently between pets. That's part of why I took this job in L.A. Good time for me to move. I'll be looking for company once I settle in, and every dog deserves someone to love them, you know."
For a moment, Haldora's stern expression faltered, showing something tender underneath. It reminded Lucy of how she felt when she got home to her dog Buddy. "We'll probably still need a home for one of these lads in a few weeks' time." Haldora smiled.
"Thanks."
Then she got into the van, nodded at the driver, and they headed off. Each wrestling with the leads of 3 large and excitable dogs, Lucy and Jackie made their way in through the rear entrance of the Silver Griffins' L.A. headquarters. Reception here was more functional than in the observatory, with only a metal bulkhead embedded in concrete walls. Each witch in turn pressed her wand against a panel next to the bulkhead. Once it recognized their magic, the steel sheet slid back and they walked in. "She seems all right," Jackie said, "for a corporate security stooge." "You don't like private security?"
Jackie shook her head. My family has too many stories about private magical security ops gone wrong. You give those guys a wand and a couple of rules to enforce, they end up going John Rambo in the middle of Melbourne. Then there are all the private companies that keep trying to change the Silver Griffins' rules, saying we need to open up to the market. She laughed bitterly. Uncle Harold has some stories from Washington that would make you spit out your tea. I'm very protective of my tea. That's how bad they are. Well, those Nuada people seemed all right to me. Yeah, I guess. Jackie shook her head. That elephant. Wait, do you have a crush? You don't? I mean, did you see her? I'm straight and married. Everyone has exceptions. Not everyone. Yeah, right. Now, where are we stashing the doggos? Well, we need somewhere secure, with space for them to run around in, and, given their energy, somewhere practically indestructible. I see where this is going, Jackie laughed. All right, but if Jenkins turns them all into newts, you get to explain it to our new dwarf friend. Halfway up the headquarters complex, they took a turn off the concrete corridors, through a reinforced door, and around a corner into a long room filled with strange machines and tattered targets, its walls scorched and scratched. The dogs looked up in confusion at the sound of grinding death metal emerging from a customized speaker system, then started bouncing in time to the beat. Jenkins! Jackie shouted. Halfway down the hall, 2 men in lab coats turned. Tolliver Jenkins, the ginger-haired head of the Special Equipment and Weapons Department, waved, but his younger companion stood looking nervous while a variety of fruit orbited his head. The music turned down from a deafening roar to a background growl. "Stay there, Nigel," Jenkins said, then walked over to the witches. "What can I do for you ladies today?" "We need to ask you a favor," Lucy said, then held out the leads to him. "These dogs need a temporary home, and this seemed like the best place." Jenkins shrugged. "Why not? I've wanted to try some behavioral experiments, and apparently it's unethical when I do that on Nigel." "I'm not sure any of your experiments on Nigel are strictly ethical." "He agrees to them. Don't you, Nigel?" "Well, Exactly." Jenkins grabbed both sets of leads. "Come on, let's see what treats Uncle Tolliver can find for you lot in the back office. I have a pig cadaver I was saving for a weapons test, but I didn't have any plans for the bones." He headed off, the dogs swirling around him in an excitedly barking cloud of fur, while Nigel stood in the middle of the firing range, fruit floating around his head. "Hi, Jackie," he called and waved. "Hi, pale guy. Nice banana you've got there." "Are you sure they'll be all right here?" Lucy whispered. "The dogs? They'll be fine. If they keep Jenkins distracted, the rest of the world might be safer for it." Together, the 2 witches headed out of the lab and up the stairs to the main office floor. There, dozens of witches and wizards sat at their desks, doing research, writing up reports, or drinking coffee and discussing cases. Between them, administrative gnomes scurried back and forth with piles of paperwork in their hands, while pigeons flapped past overhead, carrying small objects around the office and mission briefings out to agents in the field. "I didn't know Twylin was coming in today." Lucy gestured at the teenage witch who sat by their desks, her brown coat hanging loose around her and magic flickering from her eyes. "I must have forgotten," Jackie said. "Never mind. It's always good to have the kid around. She's going to make a great griffin one day." "All the better because you're training her." Twylin stood as they approached. "Hey, kiddo," Jackie said. "Did I forget an appointment?" "No. I hope you don't mind, but the rest of the Underfoot Brigade are studying some low-level enchantments today. Well, that's a bit basic for you." Jackie nodded. "Glad you've come in. You missed a really fun chase and a bunch of cute dogs, but the day's still young." "Dogs?" "I'll explain once I have a coffee." Jackie grabbed a stained mug off her desk. "First things first." "Agent Cowell, Agent Heron."
Sam, the personal assistant to the regional manager, had appeared as if out of thin air, though Lucy was sure there hadn't been any real magic to it. "Mr. Applegate said to send you both to his office when you got back in. He said straight away." Jackie snorted, but put her mug back down on the desk. "Can the kid come with us?" Sam considered this for a moment, then nodded. "I don't see why not. It's nothing confidential." They trooped into the regional manager's office. Roger Applegate smiled at them from behind his desk. Across from him sat a short, gray-haired witch with a narrow face and piercing eyes. Next to her was an older man in a three-piece suit, every bit as dapper as Applegate's, but with the addition of a watch chain dangling across one side. "Uncle Harold!" Jackie strode across the room to hug the older man. "You never told me you were coming to town."
"It was a last-minute decision. Favor for a friend and all that. Good to see you, though, little Jack-Jack."
"How many times do I have to tell you not to call me that?"
"Always one more."
Applegate cleared his throat.
"Agent Kowal, Agent Heron, I believe you're both familiar with Director Sunder, our head of security for North America."
"We've met," the older witch said. "Who is the other young woman?" "This is Twylin," Lucy said. "Jackie's teaching her about how the Silver Griffins work."
"She seems a little young."
Sunder raised an eyebrow.
"Too young to recruit," Applegate said, "but not too young for us to show her why she should be interested in the Griffins. Twylin is a young woman of great potential. Your office, your choice."
Sunder's tone said she didn't believe it. "Did you want to see us for something in particular?" Lucy asked. Sunder's attitude toward Twylin had her feeling defensive, and she wanted to get this done before she was career-crushingly frank with a superior. Applegate looked at the more senior Griffins expectantly.
"We're going around several of the offices," Sunder said. "The Silver Griffins have recently entered into an agreement with a magical-run company called Nuada Industries, who are expanding their North American operations. It's an important relationship to all of us, right up to Lacey at the very top, and we want to make sure it goes smoothly."
"Really?"
Jackie shot her uncle a questioning look. "Corporate collaborations now?" "Finn Nuada is a fine fellow," Harold said. "We have a lot of faith in the company. We believe they're going to do good things for the whole community, particularly here in L.A., where he is making some big investments. We want to make sure that all goes smoothly."
"Well, it went fine this morning."
"This morning?"
"The incident we were chasing down ran into the Nuada building. It's all cleared up now."
Harold and Sunder exchanged a look. "Perhaps you could tell me more later," he said. "For now, the important thing is this. Nuada are our friends, and the Silver Griffins will extend them every courtesy. Is that clear?" "Crystal clear, Director."
Applegate smiled.
"Got that, agents? Now get out there and make our new friends feel at home."
Chapter 3. There was frantic activity all around as Lucy, Jackie, and Twylin emerged from Applegate's office. Lucy grabbed Jim Lamont, a junior wizard, as he hurried past. "What's going on?" she asked. "Troll attack in West Hollywood," Jim said. "They've called out half the office to deal with it." Twylin glanced at Jackie. "Should we go?" "They've already got half the office. They don't need us, too." "Surely it's better to have more people?" "Then what happens if another emergency comes up?" Jackie shook her head and picked up her coffee cup. "If they need us, they'll call us. For now, it's time to get caffeinated." They headed to the break room, which was still in top condition after a recent redecoration. Jackie and Twylin got coffees from a shiny new machine, while Lucy brewed herself a cup of tea. "Nearly 15 years over here, and you're still acting like one of the invaders." Jackie shook her head. "Maybe we should take you up to Boston and drop you in the water." "Maybe I should start taxing you without representation. $1 for each stupid comment about my Englishness. And no place in Parliament for you." The clack of high heels announced Kelly Petrie approaching the break room. Lucy fished her tea bag out of her mug and added milk. hoping to get out before Kelly arrived, but she wasn't quite quick enough. Her least favorite agent walked in, dressed in a tailored suit, perfect makeup, and to look like she'd stepped in something unpleasant. "Oh, good. You're here," Kelly said. "Mr. Applegate said you were around." "Which of us is that directed at?" Lucy asked. "It's hard to tell past the sneer." "I need to talk to both of you." Kelly ignored both Lucy's comment and Twylan's presence. "I have to ask—" She grimaced. "A favor." "You do it with such grace," Jackie said. "How could we possibly refuse?" "It's not for me," Kelly said as more footsteps approached down the corridor. "It's for my husband." Max Petrie walked in, dressed as smartly as Kelly, but without the superior sneer. In his presence, something shifted in the atmosphere. Kelly became less uptight, and Lucy felt more forgiving. If a guy as nice as Max loved Kelly, she couldn't be as bad as she seemed. "Hi, Max. How are you doing?" Lucy asked. "I haven't seen you at the dining room business meetings lately." Max chuckled. "Sadly, no. Corporate work has kept me busy. But I'll be back with the guys soon, I promise. And not only for the sake of your cookies." Lucy had seen a lot of unlikely things in the past year, from a smog monster to a nightly order to a creature of nightmare stalking people's dreams. Out of it all, the part that had most caught her by surprise was her husband teaming up with Max and the disreputable bounty hunter Ringo Fuller to form their own company. Not that she objected, especially given their environmentally friendly work, but it still felt more than a little unreal. "It'll be good to have you back," she said. "If corporate work is keeping you busy, what brings you here?" "Nuada Industries." "You have a case against them?" "Quite the opposite." Max gestured at a table in the middle of the room. "Shall we?" While Kelly fetched coffee for herself and her husband, the rest of them sat at the table. Max opened a folder and spread paperwork out across the surface. "Obviously, this isn't my full case file," he said. "Client confidentiality means a lot, even in the magical world. Heck, especially in the magical world. When the opposing firm has scrying lawyers, it's all the more important to put your paperwork away. Still, this will give you some idea of what I'm dealing with." The witches looked at the papers he'd put out. There were legal contracts, photos of factories, and diagrams that might have meant something to Lucy if she'd paid more attention in high school chemistry class instead of wishing she was in art or English. "Pretend for a minute that we're not all lawyers," Jackie said. "What is this mess?" "It's a court case. One worth a lot of money and is due to reach court in the next few days. Because of a reorganization in my firm, it landed on my desk on short notice." Max shook his head. "Very short notice." "What's it about?" "You've heard of Nuada Industries, right?" "Met them today, but I have no clue what they do." "Seriously?" "Seriously." Max looked at Lucy. "You know about them, right?" "Should I?" "Well, Charlie's really into magical tech, so I figured he must have talked about them." "Possibly." Lucy blushed. "I have to admit, sometimes what he's talking about stops making sense to me, and I zone out a bit." "I know that feeling." Kelly squeezed her husband's shoulder, then set a cup of coffee in front of him. "Assume for a moment, honey, that not everyone you meet lives in the intersection of technology, law, and environmental salvation." Max laughed. "Okay, that's fair. So, Nuada's a big deal in magical tech. They've been around for years in various incarnations, but the current name and corporate structure is relatively new. They made a lot of their money in the past by working in lights, bulbs, fittings, research into better filaments, things like that. Recently, they've taken a few steps sideways. Making headlights led them into car electronics, led to self-driving and electric vehicles, led to an interest in green tech. Now they have a new division that's flipped their position around, from turning power into light to turning light into power." "They're making solar panels?" Twylan asked. "Exactly. Great to see that everyone around here is so smart." Twylan blushed and focused on her coffee. "Now I see why this would be Charlie's bag," Lucy said. Where does the court case come in? Nuada has a competitor, Leader Luminosity.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?